Hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Dirt. Dirt can mean gardening, dirt can mean farming, dirt can mean agriculture, dirt can mean politics, dirt can mean religion, dirt can mean anything we want it to mean because it's dirt. And so, super excited for another episode here. And I have Abey from Ruckle Farms. And so excited for this episode because I read in your little bio that you were a vegetarian and then you turned to like meat farmer or animal farmer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So let's just jump right into that. You were a vegetarian for a while, or for a few years, or a long time, or just tell us a story about vegetarian turned. Now you have animals. Tell us how that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. So I became a vegetarian around 13 I've always been an animal lover, and that was certainly part of it, but it was also the misguided notion that it would help. It was at a time in my life where I got really interested in weight loss and was reading all the beauty magazines and all the things. And so I thought, well, that's a good diet for me to be on. And so I was a vegetarian for about 10 years. I started eating meat again in my early 20s, but without much conscious, like, as far as where it was coming from. And then soon after that, started to get really interested in where my food was coming from. And it just kind of took off from there. I was listening to Diana Rogers, and I remember her talking about how there is no deathless diet. And for me, that something really shifted in me, of that understanding of, like, if creatures are going to die for me to live, then I wanted to take accountability for that and actually eat what was going to nourish my body. And so I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and there's a lot of vegan and vegetarian options there. So decided, wanted to take accountability for my food choices. And so I started being really interested in where my food was coming from. And I started doing little farm tours and being more conscious about what I was buying at the grocery store. Soon after that, we moved to Northern California. We started a garden. We ended up with as many as 6 chickens. And then after that, the opportunity to come back to where I grew up, Salt Spring Island. I'm originally from Manitoba and around a lot of farming throughout my life, but I grew up on Salt Spring, did my schooling here. And my mom, in my last year of high school, had come to this farm. It's called Ruckle Heritage Farm. And my stepdad has now been here for about 35 years. My mom's been here since 99. And so the opportunity to come and join them here came up. And so after very different lifestyle in California, we came up and joined them here in very beginning of 2021.
Okay, so you moved back to the farm. You went away to to me, California. I've never been to California, but to me, when I hear California, it all seems big city to me. Oh, and some agriculture. They've got a lot of agriculture down there.
Definitely a lot of Yeah, definitely a lot of agriculture, and there were a lot of opportunities. And I think, living in Los Angeles, there was certainly a lot of uh, ability to seek out that food, as far as the options in the grocery store and that kind of thing. Uh, yeah, I mean, we came here, and we now we raise sheep, cattle, we milk a cow. I'm really big believer in raw milk. Then we have chickens, both for meat and eggs. Yes, love it.
So for the viewer or for the listeners that are just listening, as she said, raw dairy, I lifted up my jar of goat milk here. So I will be drinking my goat milk as we have this podcast because I am a big believer in raw dairy as well. So sorry, I interrupted you this time. So keep going.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, in California, it was great. We could access raw milk, and I started drinking it. Probably about nearly 15 years ago now, and even had trouble breastfeeding. And with my second son, I actually drank it through my pregnancies, which some people that don't know about that, I get pretty scandalized by that idea. But I was really confident in my source. I was getting it from Raw Farm, which was Organic Pastures, is now Raw Farm. And yeah, I was grateful for it, grateful for the nutrition, and super grateful that I came to the diet that I was eating. I was in Los Angeles, and as a person who admittedly has had a quite a bit of disordered eating throughout my life, I was teaching Pilates and I was, dabbling in all sorts of things, including veganism. And there was a nutritionist that I was teaching, and she kind of caught wind of this. And she said, whatever you do, don't have a vegan pregnancy. And honestly, it's one of the things I'm most grateful for because I was, yeah, eating raw butter and lots of meat and bone marrow and eggs and just all of this stuff that I know contributed to me having really healthy children and including the raw milk. And I'm really grateful I could access it in California. And then unfortunately it's illegal to distribute in Canada, which I hope will change in time. But for us, that meant getting a cow. So
Yeah.
yeah, I milk right now. I'm milking twice a day and getting upwards of 4 gallons of milk to deal with.
I love it. I love it. And yes, we are in Canada. I'm in Canada as well, and it's totally illegal here. I'm going to say something a little controversial. I actually hope that it doesn't get legalized in Canada. So this is for purely for my opinion and entertainment purposes only that I'm going to say this. My thought is if we get government to legalize it, then they'll also bureaucratize it. That's not a word. They'll put bureaucracy behind it, and they're going to make it tough for the small farmer again. And so, I know that there are some people who do. They figure ways around the block and around the rules, and I've been to Cuba a few times, so there's black market in Cuba, so that's just purely my
Yeah.
opinion. But yeah, and when I was
Well,
pregnant as well, so I've got babies, and when I was pregnant, I went to my grandfather's funeral, and we stayed in someone's home, and we were served milk because it always made me feel better in the morning. And ironically, it was a glass of raw dairy from the dairy farm that they probably shouldn't have served me, but I drank it up and I was like, this is good stuff. And that was 16 years ago. Like crazy. Do you remember the toilet paper wars of 2020? Are you worried about being prepared in an emergency? Are you tired of being a slave to the corporations we purchase from? It's time to take control. Become ungovernable. Take your food system into your own hands. Hi, I'm Dawn, a coach dedicated to helping you live like grandma used to. Self-reliant, resourceful, and prepared. Whether it's raising chickens, growing a garden, canning your own food, or even milking a cow, I'll teach you how to thrive and survive in the space you have, big or small. We can even potentially make some money off your homestead. Visit Dawn's Dirt today to book your free jumpstart call. Together, as a team, we can get you self-reliant and ungovernable. We, the people, have the power to take back control. Remember, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Let's build a better future and a community, one skill set at a time.
yeah. Yeah, that I mean, it's a wonderful product and it's the only illegal food. I think it's like should all give us pause. I mean, you bring up a good point. I think for me, it's actually about perhaps more the decriminalizing of it because I think that you're right. Like there's a spectrum of good farming. And I think that as a small producer, like when I kind of see it both ways. Like on the one hand, I want people to access it and I want people to have the ability to have it. And so what I saw in California and what I've seen with those not large dairies but larger dairies, there's a lot more than the one cow, that they're doing good things, but it's almost like at this tier of cleanliness that I understand why they're doing that, but I also know that with the practices I'm doing, and back in the day when they were milking into wooden buckets that like couldn't be washed, that there's a lot of benefit to that. And so I think it depends to the degree that there's the distribution. And it's unfortunate that we are in a time where we can't really depend on common sense and people just doing the right thing. But I think the thing with raw milk is just people just it seems to be held to this completely different standard. And and there's so many, I mean, I know you know all of this, but there's so many other foods that can make people sick. And then nobody's suggesting we're outlawing lettuce and peanut butter and cantaloupe and all the things. And so I always try to explain to people, like, I'm not saying raw milk can't get you sick, but I sure as heck am saying that it can make you healthy and it can benefit you in all of these ways that when we analyze that cost benefit analysis, for me, whatever risk there is, it's absolutely worth it.
You're 100% correct. I didn't realize we were gonna talk on about raw dairy on this episode, but I love it. I love it. I love it. I know for my daughters, I have 2 teenage daughters, and when they get into, like, grocery store dairy, their tummies hurt after a while. Like, they can't do it very well, but then they get some raw dairy, raw cow milk, and it kind of almost resets something in their stomachs, and then they can eat the cheese on the pizza again. It's just kind of crazy that it just does something to them. And I know of 2 other children, and they would get really, really, really sick on any kind of dairy. They got any kind of dairy, they would totally get very sick. And that mother got some raw dairy, and those children now, if they get fed an ice cream cone someplace, they're not going to get as sick as they used to. So I don't know what that is. I'm not a scientist, but yeah, it's just insane to me that the government is outlawing something that seems so beneficial to us.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree, and I think it's just really that we've just been indoctrinated to believe, like, even as someone who's had it for 15 years, I sometimes find myself like kind of like worried about, I don't know, like I don't worry about it for me and my own family, but it's like when I'm encouraging other people to have it, I I don't know, I've kind of let go of a lot of that now. Like, I've just been around it so much now, and I think it's just leading with that idea of like, yeah, like there's risk with all food that we eat. And but yeah, I'm so thank my kids are not sick very often. When they are, they snap out of it pretty easily. Um Good teeth, all it's like a lot of benefits.
For sure. I just want to mention at this moment. So it's the sale and giving away of raw dairy in Canada that's illegal. So it is not illegal for me to drink my raw goat milk that I have goats in my backyard, and I'm drinking my own for my own
Mhm.
purposes, and it's not illegal for you to drink your own cow's milk. It's illegal if we choose to sell it, which yeah.
Yeah, that's a no-go, unfortunately, but yeah, I wish we could. I feel bad for people because it is, we have the ability to have a cow, and not everybody does. And I'm super passionate about encouraging more people to embrace producing their own food, but we need to be realistic about how many people are going to do that. And I think, goats can perhaps be more attainable for some people, or a milk sheep, but again, this isn't going to be a lot of people's reality. And so they're really missing out on what I think could really help so many issues when we're talking about how much of our mental and physical health relates to our gut microbiome. And that, people want to sometimes say that raw milk isn't different. And yet, if you put raw milk out on the counter, it will clabber, it will ferment. You cannot do that with pasteurized milk. So you just simply cannot say it's the same thing. It's not.
Raw dairy is alive. This dairy is alive. It's got good things, and it's got, yeah, it's and it you're right. It'll ferment, and it'll make what is it? Kefir?
It clabbers. Yeah, it clabbers. So clabber is the term for like it kind of makes like a bit of a gelatinous consistency. It's actually a wonderful cheese starter. I put it in smoothies. I try to keep some going. We actually feed it to our meat bird chickens and our laying hens. I love clabber. It's a wonderful product. And I mean, we make all sorts of things with our milk, but yeah, yes, I mean, as far as there's a lot of things that make raw milk different, but I think the ability for it to spontaneously ferment is a really tangible expression of how it is. I feel a very superior product.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. Sheep milk is not illegal. So goat and cow is illegal, but to my understanding, sheep is not illegal. So there are more and more sheep dairies popping up. So I found
Oh,
that really interesting.
I
Yeah.
I
We have
hadn't
to,
I had not heard that. I'm gonna look into that
yeah,
because I
I
know
would concur.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that sheep's milk is so rich, and we have sheep, and we do milk them occasionally in order to get milk for or like colostrum, usually for their young when there's an issue going on. But yes, we don't have milk sheep, but I've heard great things, and I know that it makes wonderful cheese because it is so rich and fat. Um, yeah.
East Frisian. I think that's the breed that milks the best is East Frisian sheep. So, okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. So I love that we just talked raw dairy. It's a hot topic among homesteaders. But so let's go back. So you left the farm. You were in California. You came back to the farm. You started telling me about all the animals you have, and then you hit on cow, and I was like, it's like something shiny. So you have sheep and meat, chickens and egg layers, and what did I miss?
Yeah, I mean, we're very much a mixed farm, like, it's there's a lot of lives. I mean, primarily, we are a sheep farm, I guess, in many ways, that's what we have the most of. I mean, we had 67 ewes that had about 90 lambs this year. We have 17 cattle, although as other farmers will understand, this goes up and this goes down. We have a steer going in about a month to the abattoir, and yeah, and then we have meat birds seasonally. We don't. I mean, the most we've raised in a summer is 100. We have laying hens, quite a few of those. We do sell the eggs as well, and yeah, and then we do turkeys. So we do originally turkeys came to the farm as a form of pest control. The heritage turkeys consume the click beetle that prevents them. If that click beetle isn't there, it's not laying the wire worm, and therefore we're able to grow really good produce. So we do also have market gardens for. Well, I should say we have gardens. They're mostly for ourselves, but inevitably things grow and we don't use it all, and so we sell some either to some of the local restaurants on our farm stand, and then we also do Nicholas white turkeys as well. So they're very free range and living the great life that a turkey deserves, but they are that quicker converter. And so therefore we can get them around the same time. We can get those chicks, and and they're ready for Canadian Thanksgiving at the beginning of October. Whereas the birds, even if they're born around the same time, they won't be ready until Christmas.
Hey, I love it. And I heard garden. I don't know if you know my history or not, but I had a 36,000 square foot greenhouse and I did 20 acres of market gardens. So, and I sold at farmers markets. So, where do you sell all your eggs and your garden stuff? Where do you sell? Like how do what tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing to just clarify, like I came back to Salt Spring where I grew up, but I actually didn't grow up on this farm. So this farm lifestyle is new to me. However, I did grow up a lot around a lot of gardening, and my grandpa had cattle, and my dad raised grew wheat and different things in Manitoba. But here on this farm, we're in within a provincial park. So Ruckle Heritage Farm is the nearly 200-acre farm within the 1,200-acre provincial park on Salt Spring Island. And so it's a little bit of a unique situation, and it means a lot of people come here, both to camp and just to hike and do things at the park. And so we have a very active farm stand, and that's where we do sell the majority of the produce. It's just kind of what the sort of extras. And then there's a health food store in town that sometimes buys the extra vegetables we have, a restaurant that we have a good relationship with, and then it's a couple of restaurants that we sell the majority of our meat to. However, we also do just sell to community members, and certainly like the turkeys at the holidays, that's just like on the phone with people in our community and having those sales. So yeah, I mean, we're thankful that it's not a real struggle to move our product. Thankfully, we're in a good situation that way. Although I do find that gardening. I mean, meat's got a little, you can put it in the freezer, right? And then the produce, sometimes it's like fast and furious. So, but I do try to preserve things for the winter months, and yeah, we're trying to do a lot here. We also do the accommodations, we do farm tours. So We're really filling our days.
Okay, so you're in the agritourism business as well. So people come to I love hearing that, restaurants and farm stands and all of those things, but you have people come to your farm to learn about farming.
Yeah, we do. I mean, definitely, we have people that just contact us and then people who also stay at our accommodations here on the farm. And yeah, it's a great opportunity to talk to people about farming. I'm really passionate about sustainable farming, both in the environmental sense and also for farmers to be able to support themselves. And it's yeah, I think I can be a bit of an obsessive person, and it's really what I've like uh chomped onto. And I really I'm just passionate about where our food comes from. And I think it's such an important thing. And so the more we can produce our own food is really meaningful to me, but also having those conversations with people and letting them really see that big picture of farming. Because I feel like there's so many well-intentioned people who are being pushed towards eating a certain way, maybe avoiding animal source foods. And I used to think that too, and I understand the passion behind that, but farming here, you really do face where your food comes from, and it is challenging for me. Like, I think that's the thing. I know some farmers are more pragmatic about it. It's kind of like the way it is. I am a bit more outwardly emotional about it, but saying goodbye to animals that you have cared for, sometimes for years, is whether it's a quote unquote long or short time, is challenging. But for me, I just have come to understand that just because it's sad doesn't mean it's wrong. And it's really why I want to do this so much, is because I think it's really important that we move towards a food system that respects animals, treats them well, that they're well managed, both for the environment and for the animals, and that this benefits our own health just so greatly. So it's really important. And so it's wonderful with the farm tours to help people see that bigger picture and understand that you can love animals and choose to eat meat. And I actually think it's one of the best ways to express that love is to support those farmers. So those are the ones that are going to be able to continue and give those lives to animals.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. Oh, as I'm looking out the window and all my chickens are out. We'll go deal with that in a few minutes. Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more. It We I'm a proponent of we need more small farmers, and there is such a huge disconnect, and there's a lot of myths around what happens on a farm even, and a lot of rhetoric and a lot of, different information and a lot of disinformation really as well, around farming and agriculture and what happens to animals and things like that. And so I love that you're doing the educational piece, having people come. The disconnect back in the day, back 50, 100 years ago, you knew a farmer. Your grandma was a farmer, your uncle was a farmer, your dad was a farmer, someone in your life was a farmer. And now a lot of people in the city, I sell eggs and chicken at a farmer's market, and I had a woman walk up, and I brought a chicken in a little cage just for one day, little chicken in a cage. And she walks up and she says, "I've never seen a chicken before." And she must have been like in her 60s. And I'm like, wow, like it just shows the disconnect between agriculture and farm and our food system and the people, because our food system is not the grocery store. Our food system is the farmer. Like, without farmers, my vehicle says no farmers, no food, and there's so much truth behind that. And so I love that you do the educational piece. And so do you get city people come out, or who comes out to your farm?
I would definitely like all sort. I mean, here on Salt Spring, like a lot of it is quite a naturey place, and there are quite a few farms, and so a lot of people on the islands, like yeah, they have that exposure, and although I think it's still you can have that exposure and still maybe not again have thought it through of all of the because you're right, like there is just I feel like we're pretty bombarded with that idea that it's either that it's wrong to eat meat or it's bad for the environment or it's bad for our health. Like gosh, that one's really really stuck around. But but yeah, definitely city people. I mean, a lot of people from Vancouver, Victoria, or elsewhere in Canada, or certainly into the States for sure. Like people come. Salt Spring is a great tourist destination, and so we do have. Yeah, I think it's the farm exposes a lot of people, and it is a very beautiful setting. I mean, it's a beautiful farm, and it's an enchanting place to be. And I think sometimes people are like, well, it's like that's like you're promoting this and people are just going to go and eat their factory farm meat and it's just like I don't think that we can like we need to still spread the message that this is possible. And I do also think that there's a spectrum of good farming and that there's a lot of even misunderstood things about just all aspects of farming, as you said, and that we just need to keep moving towards better practices within the context that people are. And I think also encouraging more people to get involved with producing their food and realize in whatever ways, small or large, that they can do that. Because as I learn more about our food system, I think it really comes down to local food is the only way to build a resilient food system. And now that word local is going to, mean relative things depending on where you are. But I think the more that we can understand where our food comes from, it's also going to help people actually it's gonna support farmers, I think, with that buying directly, but it's also there's just so much, the labels can be really misleading, and so I think it's not enough to just be like, "Oh, I buy organic," or "I buy grass-fed." It's like, well, do you actually know how that's being produced? Because it might not be quite what you think, and, we're not certified organic, we have different reasons for that, but, um I respect people need a jumping off place and that can be an important, even the word regenerative, right? It's sometimes like this, what does that mean? I mean, it means something to me, but it means different things. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think the more that we can encourage people to actually have conversations with human beings and understand how their food is being produced, ideally start to become involved in that process, that's how we're going to build a local resilient food system.
Preach it, preach it. I agree with you 10,000%. When I had my farm, people would say, "Are you organic?" And I'd say no, and I would explain what I did. I was a hydroponic greenhouse. So here in Canada, that's not organic. And then I use my wastewater on my field crops. So then, that's not organic. But as far as herbicide, fungicide, and insecticide goes, I used organic methods. But the
Mhm.
point to all of that is exactly what you were saying. It's about the relationship and it's about the community. And so when you can build a relationship with your farmer, that's what local is, when you can actually speak to them, when you can speak to the farmer and see the farmer and, know the farmer and build that community, that's what real local is. And you're right. I think that local our version of local, not Walmart's version. Oh, I just stated, not the big stores versions of Walmart. Sorry, no, I just mumbled up. Not the big corporation stores version of local. I've been in some big companies and they've got the word local farmer and they've got a picture of a farmer, but like that's not necessarily local because that farmer might be, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 provinces away. And so it's a buzzword, but when you actually can shake the hand of the person that feeds you, that's where it's at. I was also at a conference not that long ago, and there was a speaker there, and he said, everyone should be a producer, not everyone should be a farmer. And I thought, that is a very good way to say it. And so his meaning behind it is Tekoa Cohen. His meaning behind it is he thinks that everyone should have a few chickens in their backyard and grow a garden. You can even do something on a balcony of an apartment building and that's producing, or whatever task, whatever gifts, whatever talents that you have, that's what you can produce with. And so then you can trade or barter or buy or sell or whatever, those gifts, and we can that's where you're building back into your community. We the people can build back into our own communities with our own people, the people that you rub elbows with in the grocery store, but maybe that's a bad in the hardware store or the farm supply store when you're getting your things. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great quote, and I think um, yeah, I think there's so much hope in that as well. And and encouraging people, this is not an easy lifestyle in so many ways, but I think there's also it's a beautiful one. You eat very well. Like there's all sorts of reasons why I feel super, super grateful to be where I am and do what I do. But it's not sometimes I'm seeing people, I'm like, "Oh, you're going on vacation," or like, "Oh," like just all these kind of but then I kind of take a step back and I think everybody's careers comes with different challenges for sure. But I think also the beauty of producing your own food, even if it's not to that quote's point, even if it's not like literally your job and you're doing it for other people, is there's such a freedom to that. There's a freedom to knowing you can support yourself, that you're, not I mean, we think we're living in very turbulent, stressful times, and I feel really grateful that I can provide for my family and that I can help do that for others. So, yeah, I think that's an important aspect of it, and it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. When I moved off my farm, so I had my farm. My biggest fear moving off of my farm is what will I feed my children? And yes, sometimes I sacrifice meals at my table to put food on other people's tables, but I always knew because I had sheep and I had chickens and I had, all my vegetables and things like that. I always knew that I had food and I knew that I had food for other people. And so moving off the farm, every time I looked at a house in town, I was like, where can I hide my chickens and where can I put the garden? That's what mattered to me
Mhm.
less than the house. And so thankfully I landed in the country here and I've got 450 chickens that half of them are out right now, but looking out the window. But yeah, like that was important to me. That's extremely important to me is that I have food sovereignty, that I know where my food is coming from. I know that I have access to food. And yeah, it's just a priority and freedom. You use the word freedom. It's absolutely a freedom to know that I have food in my backyard. And I'm very blessed and thankful for that.
Absolutely.
So let's chat about how you farm. Like let's chat about your methods. So do you have your chickens all cooped up in a barn and they never see outside?
Certainly not. I we so I mean, this farm has been here for over 150 years. And so the chicken coop we are using is quite old and I think is an example of what chickens do to the surrounding area. It's my goal to have more of a movable pastured laying hen program, but they certainly have plenty of outdoor access. They get a lot of food scraps, they have a lot of room. Um, it's a good life for a chicken here at Ruckle. Now the meat birds, they are pastured. We're moving them around my backyard actually, and I've absolutely loved that. I mean, it is one more job for the day, but we figured it out so it's pretty efficient, and I just love seeing them out on new grass. Like that to me is just I mean, farming, yeah, like I very much consider myself a grass farmer and I'm pretty obsessed with with grass and forage and I want I think it's like again, I mean for the meat bird chickens, like they're such messy little creatures because they're such, they're converting so quickly. They're pooping and eating and pooping and eating and so it just would be it's so much bedding if they're in an indoor situation. And then, yeah, just knowing that I feel like it ebbs and flows with how much they forage, but you see them nibbling away at things and they're also out, they're outside. I mean, they're in a structure, but it's just enough to really have shade. It's not like they're indoors in the way that so many chickens are raised. And Yeah, so I think that it's that I really liked that system, and we're able to I think again, meat bird chickens are such a great thing for people to consider doing, whether that's heritage breeds or that Cornish cross, because, even a heritage chicken is gonna be ready for butcher by about 12 weeks. A Cornish cross maybe in as little as 6. And so you're talking a very finite amount of time, because I think in a lot of ways, like when I went back to Manitoba for my grandpa's funeral, and you're just it's like land as far as the eye can see, and just there's so many like big farms now, and like these communities that just aren't thriving the way they once were, and I just was like, where are all the animals? Because it's
What
just so
what
much
happened?
grain farming, and my mom's friend was kind of pointing out that
Where'd you
people
go?
don't want to be there all winter.
Hey, friends, on Dawn's Dirt, we get real about growing food, farming, homesteading, living free, and digging into the stuff that actually matters. If you're loving the dirt we're dishing out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite social media platforms. That's how we keep growing this community of badass, soil covered, chicken loving, freedom chasing humans. Like and subscribe to me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Come be part of the movement. So, you've got your chickens inside big pens. So let's chat about your eggs. So you've got them in a big barn with, I'm assuming, a huge pen for them to go into, and they get the scraps. So are your yolks orange?
Yeah, we do have very bright for sure. Yeah, it's actually it's like a large building, and then we do let them out just into the open air, like just outside, for most of the day. And yeah, but they're beautiful, and I think it's when again that once you kind of once you see that beautiful yolk and experience that, I think it's really hard to go back. I mean, I don't even I guess probably a restaurant was the last time I had a not, egg from my farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I get customers all the time because I'm selling eggs, and I've sold eggs, even when I had my vegetable farm. I had 299 chickens laying hens on my farm. And yeah, it's once you've had the farm fresh egg, and people always think it's the shell color because I've got brown eggs. It's not, it's got nothing to do with the shell color and everything to do with what you feed them. And so if they're eating the bugs and the scraps and the vegetables and the this and the that, your yolks are going to be orange. Whereas, when they're getting just feed in a barn, and they see they're not, then that's where you get that pale yellow yolk. And so it's all in what you feed them. And
Mhm.
people they want those orange yolks. They want that farm fresh egg, and they want those orange yolks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for so many people, like it is like when you think about chickens and what it costs to raise them, it's like, but you're getting a superior product, and then there's so much fertility there. I think for people who want to garden, it's such an amazing way to, rather than just like composting your food scraps, you're running them through the chicken, like they're composting it for you and creating such a more nutrient fertilizer, and then you're getting all those benefits, and then you get those eggs too, and then we do call all our older hens and turn them into food as well. So I think it's just really, yeah, accepting that circle of life, and they're, yeah, wonderful little creature.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the system. It's the surrounding system. So your manure goes with the garden. Well, first you compost it down because you have to compost it down. You don't want it too hot. Then you put
Mhm.
it on the garden. Then you're growing the vegetables, and then your veggie scraps go back to the chickens, and then you can add sheep and goats and cows and all of the whole thing into the whole mix. And that's really what regenerative is to me, is, that you've got a full picture system on your small farm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really comes back to animals and the need for animals in our food system. And I think the more that we can, accept that, then the better off we are. And I think that it's not our morality that I think should compel us to not eat animals. It's our morality that should compel us to care how creatures are treated. And all of the animals on this farm, they're able to exhibit their natural behaviors. They're able to, be outside and eat a wonderful diet. And then when their time comes, they're given a quick, low stress death free of suffering. And I think that's really what matters.
For sure. One bad day. One bad day. That's it. And they don't even know what's coming, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it. So, thank you so much for being on the show today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You're amazing. So, where can people find you?
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun to talk with you as well. I am on Instagram and Abby on the farm, and it's ABEY on the farm. And then we also have our Ruckle, Ruckle farm, Ruckle Farm. And I'm also on TikTok on the Abby on the farm. And I do have a book coming out this fall. It's called Radical Farm Animals, Food, and Our Future. And so I will have a website for that. But if you follow me on social media, then you'll get lots of updates on that. But and then the farm has the Ruckle Heritage Farm.com, and people can certainly sign up for our newsletter there and get updates on the book, which I'm really excited to share with people.
I love it. That's so exciting. You're writing a book. I love that. I love that. So we should have you back on the show after the book comes out, and you can chat about how it's been to talk about your farming adventure in a book, and where people can find that there.
Yeah, I love that opportunity. Thank you.